We've known for years that massive wildfires were coming to the West Coast. Most liberal news sources have been warning you. California has 129 million dead trees. That's a huge wildfire risk. 2018. 2019, California has 149 million dead trees ready to ignite like a matchbook. 18 million trees died just last year. That poses a huge fire and injury hazard. Yes, it does. U.S. Department of Agriculture new aerial survey identifies more than 100 million dead trees in California. San Francisco Chronicle, 2019 report, California's tree die-off reaches 147 million, boosting fire threat. New York Times a few years ago, California today, 100 million dead trees prompt fears of giant wildfires. New York Times again, like tens of millions of matchsticks, California's dead trees stand ready to burn. Even Reuters said, in fact, few disagree that California's increasingly dry and overgrown forests are effectively large-scale tinderboxes. Just 3 days ago, Creek Fire in California is ground zero for dry, dead trees. And you can see this chart. Look at all the dead trees that they left in the forest after 2016. Anyone that isn't brainwashed by fake environmentalists and politicians understands if you leave hundreds of millions of dead trees in the forest, the fires are going to be way bigger, badder, and worse. Outside of the propaganda and lies, let's go to the facts. What are the main causes of a wildfire? Right off a government website, nearly 85% of wildland fires in the United States are caused by humans. And once again, outside of propaganda and constant lies from brainwashed people on Instagram, most of these fires are started by arsonists or by a mistake and have nothing to do with climate change. Take a look. Fire breaks out at recycling center near Atwater Village. Smoke is visible for miles. Take a look at this. I actually lived in Los Angeles when this happened. Even worse than it is now, had nothing to do with even the forest. Somebody lit a recycling yard on fire and the entire sky was black for days. From Beverly Hills to downtown Los Angeles, black skies from the black smoke from all of the recycling stuff that caught on fire. It was disgusting. I didn't hear one politician talk about it. I didn't hear one news source actually explain it. All you hear is climate change, as they're smoking you out and suffocating you with recycling caught on fire. Disgusting. They don't care. Actually, last year, I was one of the only people who had a mask to filter out the disgusting air, and no one seemed to notice or care because in order to tell you, the politicians would have to tell you, our city's out of control. There's urine, trash, homelessness, tents. Even though we have one of the biggest economies in the world, we have the biggest amount of poverty. You see what's happening in Seattle and Portland? They can't even stop police precincts, Starbucks, and federal buildings from catching on fire. How in the world do you think they could manage a forest or even stop their own degenerate constituents from committing serious arson and crime? Well, they can't do it. They can't stop it. In fact, they're not even trying. They know if they just lie enough, blame Trump, and scream climate change, people will be stupid enough to believe it. Let's move on. NPR, judge approves PG&E $24.5 billion plan for wildfire victims and insurance companies. The utility has acknowledged that its equipment ignited several catastrophic wildfires in the recent years. That's right, PG&E. El Dorado fire caused by gender reveal party burns 12,610 acres. Wildfires in Oregon are being investigated as arson. In Utah, arson. Right now, there are 14 confirmed fire spots, all started between 1 and 5 a.m. Saturday morning. They were intentionally set fires, not caused by dragging chains, abandoned campfires, etc. 14 confirmed arson hotspots in Monte La Salle National Forest. Once again, it's confirmed 85% of wildfires are started by arsonists. Arson is the biggest threat, and when you don't manage your forest properly, you're just waiting for them to catch on fire. Now, why were the forests mismanaged? This is actually a great article from 2018. It came out right after Trump tried to warn California that this was going to happen because it already was happening and it's only going to get worse, not because of climate change, because they mismanaged the forests, just like they mismanaged the power grid, which I'll get into later. But this guy wrote this article, says Trump was right, California's forests have been grossly mismanaged. This guy right here says, why do I care? I have spent a great deal of my life caring for the land. I spent 2 years working as a firefighter for the U.S. Forest Service, so he understands the problem quite thoroughly, and he went and broke it down exactly how they failed their constituents. He said, access. There's long been a push to block access and create wilderness areas. This makes access more difficult during emergencies. Logging. If we never logged and we allowed the natural fire cycle to occur, we wouldn't have to log now. Over the last century, we prevented the natural fire cycle. This wasn't a problem until recently because logging thinned the forest as fire used to. Logging died at the hands of misguided environmentalists in the state over the last 30-40 years. He talked about grazing for environmental reasons. He talked about how endangered species agencies led environmentalists to stop them from logging in certain areas, and air pollution laws have stopped them from doing controlled burns. So for instance, in Alaska, they do controlled burns a lot. They log, they manage their forests, and they do controlled burns to make sure they don't burn a bunch of houses and smoke out the entire state for months. But they decided to stop doing that for air pollution, even though the air pollution's much, much worse now, because like I said, they don't manage the forest, they don't do control burns, and they just wait until an arsonist or a mismanaged utility company does damage to the entire state, and then they just get on television and say, climate change.
This perfect storm. The debate is over around climate change. Just come to the state of California. Observe it with your own eyes. It's not an intellectual debate. It's not even debatable. We're in the midst of a climate emergency. We're in the midst of a climate crisis. We are experiencing weather conditions the likes of which we've never experienced in our lifetime. We're experiencing what so many people predicted decades and decades ago, but all of that now is reality. There's record droughts. There's record droughts. There's record droughts.
Climate change, and make Greta Thunberg documentaries that people just get brainwashed into believing, like, oh, that's what it is. It's the climate of the planet. Yes, the climate changes, the planet shifts, but are these fires directly related to the temperature of California or even the country or the world? Highly, highly unlikely. It's much more likely what I just showed you because it's obvious, basic common sense, basic reality that they strip you with and just fill you with propaganda and nonsense. So you think down is up is down, left is right, right is left, and when somebody lights a recycling yard on fire and you're breathing in black smoke from literal plastic and all sorts of disgusting stuff, you think it has to do with the climate of the planet. That's called brainwashed. Sorry, that's not science. Just like their failed power grid has nothing to do with climate change, it has everything to do with how they mismanage literally everything. This Forbes article pretty much nails it. They say Democrats say California is a model for climate action, but its blackouts say otherwise. You keep hearing people like Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, and Joe Biden be like, we have the model. California's the future.
Continue to do what you've done, you'll get what you got. I'm very, very proud of California's leadership. In the absence of national leadership, California, folks, is America fast forward.
If you elect them, yeah, it is the future. If you elect somebody that can actually do their job, it's not the future. We'll have a much better, cleaner, more prosperous one. They're right. They want to turn the whole nation into California. Mass homelessness, mass poverty, unbreathable air, and failed power grids. From this article, but California's big bet on renewables and shunning natural gas and nuclear is directly responsible for the state's blackouts and high electricity prices. We will be forced today to ask utilities to cut off power to millions today and tomorrow and beyond, said Stephanie Berberick, the president and CEO of California's independent system operator. Demand will greatly exceed supply. Well, why? People wonder how we made it through the heat wave of 2006, said Berberick. The answer is that there was a lot more generating capacity in 2006 than in 2020. We had the San Onofre nuclear plant and a number of plants totaling thousands of MW not there today. They used to have the power, and then they got rid of it. They had all these great ideas of renewables that I love, right? A good idea. Let's get cleaner energy. But if you don't execute properly, like Democrats didn't execute properly in California, what you're going to do is get rid of power, have more demand, and then not be able to fulfill the demand. And that's what's happening. It's not hard to do. If they would have had the same power they had back then, we'd all be fine. But now they're leaving millions of people without power because they don't manage anything properly. Not the power grid, not the forests, not the country, not the business market here, literally nothing. They do everything wrong, and then they brainwash people with mass media, celebrities, entertainers, singers, any minor that they can exploit to use your emotions to push their political and environmental agenda. And this is coming from an environmentalist. Clean the air, clean the water. What's not clean in California right now? The air is not clean. The water is not clean because the streets are so trashed. Every time it rains, all of that stuff goes out into the water, and it's killing off sea mammals. The water in Los Angeles is disgusting.
Typhus? Typhus. My own home became overrun with rats, and when I saw that, I thought, oh, we're going to have a typhus outbreak. I practiced medicine and I've been against the foothills here long enough to know that's what's coming. What scares me is they've done nothing to reduce the rodent population, and what is in this endemic in this area after typhus is something called Yersinia. You may know it as plague. So I'm worried that we're going to have that next. The city you talked about, 60,000 people on the streets defecating, feces flowing into the LA River, bypassing sewage treatment. So a city the size almost of Pasadena is bypassing sewage treatment. We're having mammalian sea mammal die off. We're worried about turtle straws.
So why isn't this and someone who cares what?
We're the environmentalists. Where are they?
Well, that's it. That's it right there.
Where are they? Where I don't understand it. We have seabird and sea mammal die off. We have 60,000 people's excrement going directly to the ocean. I can't understand it. We have such a massive problem here. Listen,
the air in Los Angeles right now is disgusting. In Salem, Oregon, it's unbreathable. It's hazardous. It's destroying your body. Is there answer to clean up the forests? No. Is there answer to fix the utility grid? No. Is there answer to take any accountability for the clear, scientific, obvious reason that these fires are much, much worse, that everybody from Vox to Reuters to New York Times, every liberal outlet on the planet saw it coming for years until it comes. So when they say this is going to come to America, they're not lying. If you vote for them, if they win, this is going to come for America. All they do is lie. All they do is brainwash. All they do is want to control your entire life. Close down the gyms. This is the health director of Los Angeles. How about you let me work out? I'm a healthy person, okay? Closing gyms. First they said you can't go to the beach. They closed down the beaches. They closed down the parks. They closed down parks and beaches. And then they found out being outdoors is actually better than indoors. And then they forced you outside where you couldn't be inside anymore. You had to go outside. These people should be criminally charged for this evil that they've enforced upon our society, flip-flopping back and forth, taking your personal liberties, taking your rights, mismanaging the forests, making the air toxic for millions of people from the top of Washington to the bottom of California. They have no answers. And any imbecile that just says, well, Anomaly, aren't you going to make the video about climate change now? Look at this video. This is way more informative and honest and accurate than anything they're saying. Yes, certain days are going to be hotter than others, but it's like 75 degrees right now. You think it's these astronomical heat waves? It's the fact that they've left hundreds of millions of dead trees just sitting there waiting to catch on fire and destroy the state. We knew this. They knew this. Everyone knew this. Liberals knew it. Progressives knew it. So why do we have to lie and play this dumb game now? And have you ever thought about how much CO2 is being released because you didn't manage it properly? Did you ever think about how much environmental damage you're doing with all the reusable masks? Do they think about anything anymore, or do they just blabber and say these words? Everybody who disagrees with me is a racist, sexist, xenophobe, climate denier, anti-vaxxer, blah, blah, blah. It's like, what are you even talking about? You can't have an intellectual discussion about anything. It's just all these little buzzwords that are meant to shut you down, put you down, and act like they have the moral and scientific high ground, when in reality, they just say those words and use those words to shut down conversation, discussion, and belittle you to the point where you don't exist, as they continue to lie, destroy, and suffocate their own people. Clean up the forests, or else this is never going to stop happening. Unless you've burnt all the 100 million dead trees already. We'll find out. Clean up your forests, fix your power grid, clean up homelessness, and if you want to be quite honest, China has the technology to make it rain already. And if you read the New York Times from decades ago, they claim that the US government was making it rain and manipulating rain in Vietnam. So if they've had the technology for decades to make it rain or manipulate the rain, how come that's the climate change that they don't want to talk about? Change the climate, make it rain, and put out these fires. Can you do it? I don't know. According to these articles, it says they can, but they're not interested in a solution. They don't want to fix the power grid. They don't want to put out these fires. They just want to lie, and people are stupid enough to believe their lies. Before I leave, if you like these hats, they're on dreamrare.com or godblesshats.com. Pick up one for yourself. Thanks for watching. Have a beautiful day.
I just make another deal. You don't understand the system. Yeah, I'm about to paint a picture. Yeah, media control the mind and censor everything that ever goes against them. Yeah, why they pin you as a victim? Yeah, so you always stay dependent. Yeah, then they tell you they gon' raise the taxes, help you out with everything you give